Round 12.
Round 12. It is in the books. An abridged round this round. Only the 7 games to go through. Interesting round of footy, Jesse. Some big smashings in there. Some expected wins, but only just. Lots to go through, lots to discuss, and we're better placed to start. So that's what happens, Jesse, when my brain realizes that I haven't done a very important thing, and that's to say to you people at home, what are your thoughts on the games at @CMPerfect_AFL, Instagram, Spotify, Apple and Amazon, seamless as always. All right, Jesse, let's jump into Thursday night footy at the Gabba. The Lions 13-12-90, defeating, but only just, the Bombers 11-6-72 in front of 26,441 at the Gabba. I say only just, but this is one of those games, Jesse. We've said this about the Bombers all year. They need to be at a 10 to win a game, and the other team needs to be 6 or 7. They were at a 10, Brisbane like at a 4, and Brisbane still got the job done. Your thoughts on this one?
I don't know if it's from Star Wars. In my head, it's from Star Wars.
Sure.
But it's from a sci-fi movie somewhere where like the big blobby thing yells, "It's a trap." That's what they should be yelling in the Brisbane rooms at quarter time when they say Essendon try to slow down the game and make them play on bad football on bad terms. Because that's exactly what happened, and Brisbane fell for the trap, and it took them a lot longer than they'd be comfortable with to escape said trap. Now, this is Brad Scott playing percentages to a T, and Essendon were very brave here. They played this game to perfection, and I don't think, even though they lost, this is a bad result by any stretch of the imagination. There can be a lot of pride with the Spirit. I am going to say, though, I know he got a lot of flowers for his performance, but Caddy missing that open goal, that's not at AFL level. You can't be doing that here. Not against good sides, because they will eventually punish you for those moments. And I think, looking back, when the momentum was rolling, and look, Essendon still managed to keep it going, but I do think that was a bit of a sliding doors moment in the broader game.
Yeah, he was having a good one, Caddy, but yeah, there was a few, like, just because you hear the name called out a few times and they do a few good things doesn't mean the overall game is very good. But he did have a good game, but yeah, there were just certain little bits that let the crew down, unfortunately. But that's okay. It happens sometimes. I still don't understand why someone who has 40 touches and 35 of them are ineffective still gets 3 Brownlow votes. But it happens. It happens from time to time.
Because they're near the ball a lot and they say, yep, that'll do.
That'll do. Umpires saw them a lot on that game. McCluggage, fantastic as always. He's definitely putting in an All-Australian-esque year. Would you agree, Jesse?
I think he has to be in that conversation.
Yeah, he's doing very well. Anything else to add about this one, Jesse, or shall we chug along?
Yeah, Essendon's big names really stood up all in unison for probably the first time this season, except for maybe Anzac Day. They need that week in, week out, which isn't always reliable. You know, you're asking a lot for your big guns to all perform every single week. We just know, just based on watching the sport, that doesn't always happen. I get the sense that they are way more important at that top end for the Bombers than similar players in other teams are for their success.
Fair shout. Let's move on to Friday night footy. At the MCG, the Pies, 16-11-107, smashing the Hawthorn Hawks, 8-8-56. Okay, so, wow, okay. So Collingwood, are they just getting better, even though they're already the best team in the competition? Are they just getting better every week, or the Hawks a little bit flustered by the top teams at the moment?
I think two things can be true here. I was going to do a little fun gambit where I said I'm on a train and next stop is Panic Station for Hawthorn. But I don't think that's entirely fair. Maybe we'll save that one for... Melbourne got flogged by St Kilda. Just let's keep that joke for 15 minutes. Okay. Look, this is disappointing for the Hawks. I said the kind of key metric for them was to either win or not get flogged. That obviously hasn't happened here. They were bad here, and I haven't been able to say that the last 2 weeks, but they were bad this week. And sans the first 15 minutes where they looked like they were really up for the fight, it just collapsed on them. I do think it's really important to quantify, though, that they are probably still a year off. Like, they're relying on a very young list, and I don't like using the young list excuse a lot, but I will use it for limited times in limited circumstances. And I feel like that case is valid for the Hawks. Now, they would obviously want to be pushing for a flag this year, but right now you've got the two best teams in the last 3 years in Collingwood and Brisbane, and they are very much occupying those top two spots. They are the two teams to beat, and I think anyone that's not named Collingwood or Brisbane is going to have a hard time getting up there.
Yeah.
So it's okay that they're not matching motors with the best side in the competition right now. They've still got good scalps this season. They've gotten the job done in difficult games. They've had a really tough 3 weeks too.
Yeah.
Coming into these bye rounds, I don't think the byes could be coming at a better time for a team like Hawthorn, because their whole thing is the energy of the playing group. So let's give them that week off. Let them be young adults for a couple of days on the bye. Just flush it out of the system and get back to work. They will make finals this year. I'm not concerned about that. Hawthorn will be in the top 8 this year.
Okay.
But I think now we can really say, and it's not necessarily just Hawthorn this applies to, but the gap between the top 2 and the rest, and there's only 9 teams in finals contention this year. If you're 10th or below, I can forget you right now, because they're not playing good football to a consistent level of making finals. So you've then got 7 teams who are probably looking to get to a prelim. All of who I'd say is probably are capable to varying degrees of getting to that, and then hoping that if they can upset in a prelim, they can roll into momentum and win a grand final. That has happened before. Look at the Dogs in 2016. Yeah, but I don't think it's worth panicking for the Hawks. For the Pies, though, big tick for them. You can minimise the damage that this does to Hawthorn, but maximise the positives for Collingwood, because they dominated a very dynamic side and had a performance where everyone on that field can take key moments out of that game and say, I did this right. Or I had to win this ball, or I had to make this pass perfectly, and I did. So you're not looking at passengers in this Collingwood side at the moment, and that's what I like about them. They've obviously got Nick Dacos at that top end of town, but I do think there's a little bit of a gap. I don't think they have a lot of that next clump of elite level quality. I think they've got a lot probably in that third line, but they have a very even team outside of their absolute superstar in Nick Dacos. They just play for each other, though.
Yeah, it's a level of confidence and skill that you don't often see this consistently with a team.
No.
Like, that every week when Collingwood come out, you're going to get some good footy from them, and they don't seem to care who they're playing either. It's just like they know what they know what their role is, but they just get the stuff, they just get it done. And a team is going well when you're in a contested position. You just chuck a hand on it and it goes out the back, and and the reason that you've chucked it there is because there's going to be someone there. It's that kind of confidence. No matter what happens, you watch these games and it just seems like everything is going right for you. We'll talk about a game like that later on. It's because you make those chances.
Yeah.
And when you make those chances and you are that confident in your gameplay, things are going to go right. And the Pies are very nice to watch at the moment. The Hawks, I think, I agree with you. I think maybe we got a bit too ahead of ourselves with their progress from the end of last year coming into this year. But they still have a lot of developing to do. And you can see that through the last 3 weeks when they've played top teams, including the Suns in Darwin, which is always a tough task, and they haven't got the job done. Work to do for the Hawks, but still exciting to watch them. Exciting to watch the Pies. They'll keep rolling, I am sure. Anything else to add, Jesse?
I think we should move on to Saturday.
Okay. Saturday morning at People First Stadium in a very wet game. The Suns 9-10-64. Going down to the Dockers 11-9-75. I said that with a surprise in my voice in front of 11,750. Look, we were worried that going into the 3 games that we've just won, the Dockers, we were worried we were going to lose all 3 of them. We've won all 3 of them. How exciting.
How Fremantle.
How very Fremantle of us. Can't wait to lose to the Kangas in a couple of weeks. It was a good game to watch, Jesse. Obviously, we watched this game from our respective homes, chatting each other the entire time. One thing I really enjoyed was the fact that the Dockers didn't just go into their shells like they normally do when they're challenged. They fought through, and they came away with a very hard-fought win.
Pause.
Pausing.
We need to talk about the Suns.
Go.
Because we always do this, and we always skip the opposition when we talk about Fremantle.
Yeah, but we won.
Yes,
Go
but we
on.
need to talk about both teams.
We will.
I think if Damien Hardwick upset the spirits at Marvel Stadium, that's one thing. But he clearly upset whoever controls the rain. Because that downpour saved Fremantle. It could not have come at a better time for the Dockers. It could not have come at a worse time for the Suns. they'll be disappointed to have lost. They'll be very disappointed to have lost this game. Ben King struggled to have an impact. I think Brennan Cox did a fantastic job on him. The mid stood up. I think Anderson, Rowell, and Rioli rotating along the wings, I think, played good games. But ultimately, a lot of these guys that have stepped up this year probably took a step back in crucial moments. And I don't think the pressure was there from the Suns to the level it was with the Dockers. They'll need to lick their wounds from this. They usually have a very strong grip on People First Stadium. Just about brush it off now. They've got a big game against the Cats coming up on their horizon.
Yeah.
It's their, they'll be disappointed to have lost. They're the only team in that top 5 to have lost their most recent game. So they just need to get on with it now from this point. But Liam, you were talking about the Dockers. I won't hold you back any longer. What do you have to say about the way Freo played?
It's fine, Jesse. They were good. It was fun to watch, and Bolton is fantastic. Clark had one of his best games of the year, I think. I chucked Voss in there as the third best for us, only because he just always looks so intense all the time, that boy.
He does.
Calm down, Vossy. Calm down. But he had a good game, kicked 3 for us as well. But realistically, he could have raffled off that last spot. Sarong, Jackson, all played very well. I was just happy because there was several times during this game where we expected the Dockers to do what Dockers do, and that is pack it in and go home. And both of us texted each other saying, all right, it's over. As soon as the sun started coming back, we're like, that's it. We're done. And to our surprise, we rallied and we got the job done, which is nice.
So did
Shay
the rain.
with what's that?
So did the rain.
Yeah, we've had 2 rainy days. We're rain experts now, Jesse. We've had 2 in a row.
Shay was unbelievable.
It was so good, man.
Shay's chased down to gift Jai a difficult chance, but one he took with aplomb to seal the game. I mean, Shay Bolton, we underpaid for him, and I look at Liam Baker at a good game for West Coast, and we'll talk about him and the Eagles in a little bit. But the fact we were actually willing to trade away that pick in a stacked draft, that ended up being Murphy Rib. It could have been a guy like Joe Berry as well, who probably would have gotten a chance in this team at Freo regardless. But the fact we're going to give that away for Baker, I'm very glad. And to be fair, that was the plan. It was Richmond that said no, not Fremantle that said no. Fremantle offered that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't need to be you need to be lucky to be good, and I get the sense that this is a prime example of that. That Fremantle was saved from themselves by Richmond. Very
good. We could go on.
Could we very quickly talk about team selection though? Very quickly.
Yeah, of course. Yes, you can. I was wondering if you wanted to go down this path, or if we should just move on.
No, I do want to talk about it because
you want to talk about it.
It was 2 bad decisions that were saved by the fact that the rest of the team lifted. Darcy should not have played. There is no world in which Darcy had a good game. He had 3 disposals. Witts humbled him the entire time he was matched up against him. He couldn't even win the secondary battle either, which.
He doesn't have a secondary battle. He has 1 battle, and then he kind of stops.
Well, no, I mean it's against the second ruck.
Oh, gotcha.
Whose name
I thought you meant the other
name plays. No, but you're right. He also just stands there as soon as the ruck contest is over. I know Fife got 7 disposals. He had 1 good handball to free up. I think it was Shay who just kept running. But again, he was gassed. Straight away, he was gassed. I know the result worked out, so you can say, well, it worked in the end, and that's fine. But you can't keep relying on that to be a serious football club and be a serious contender if you're relying on everyone else to do the heavy lifting for your bad selection decisions. Darcy shouldn't have played. I don't think Fife should have played. I think making him the sub was the right call. But, gee, it didn't almost backfire. Warner goes out. I'm pretty sure the plan was to sub Darcy for Fife. But how silly is that for a plan? That's your only option in your head. That is exactly what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chapman went off sore early. If he needed to be subbed, if Fife has to play 3.5 quarters, are we talking about a different result here? Now, obviously, they said, well, anything can happen if you change slight variables.
Sure.
But I don't like that selection at all. The club needs to move on from that Fife, as sad as that is. It's not sad we need to move on from Sean Darcy. He has had his opportunities and he just can't take them through an inability to build any form of actual fitness base as an elite athlete.
Well, they're not giving him a chance to.
Well, yes, and that's not his fault, but he's also had, 5 pre-seasons in the AFL system now? At some point, it's a bit of personal accountability too.
I think the new game style, the faster game style, unfortunately, has kind of left Sean Darcy in the dust a little bit, which is fine. These things happen. But, yeah, I think it's... I think it's high time that maybe look. Let's not kid ourselves. They'll both be playing in a couple of weeks
They will
against
be.
the Kangas, and we know that to be true. Let's move on, Jesse, before we get bogged down in the quagmire. Moving on to, this game was interesting. Saturday at NG, the Giants 12-8-80 get by on the skin of their teeth past the rampaging Tigers 10-17-77. That 17's a bit nasty. In front of 9,770. Once again, under 10,000 at NG to watch a game of footy. God, this was a little bit heartbreaking for the Tigers, to be honest with you. And
this sucked.
and Uze in the box was emotional. He was almost in tears, the poor man, because he was like, "What didn't we do?" And I tell you what,
Well, they didn't kick straight. That's what they didn't do.
what gave that away, Jesse?
17 points. And look, they're not alone in this round. The Tigers
this isn't not even close to the most egregious one of the round. But they'll be disappointed. They'll be disappointed, the Tigers, because they didn't kick a goal. I think it was Lynch kicked one halfway through the third quarter, I think it was, and that was it for them for the game. And then the Giants, after a rousing rev up by the injured captain, sent them on their way to a massive result in the end. I'm just disappointed. That's why I'm not talking that much about it, because I'm just like, oh man, the Tigers played so well. They probably deserved that win.
They did deserve this win. The Giants can't. The Giants won't be able to lay a glove on anyone in the finals. I think they'll still look at the teams below them. I mean, Fremantle are probably at that level with them. I think the Dogs are a better side than them. But then the cliff from the Dogs to Essendon, 9th to 10th. It's like going from Mount Everest, the very top of Mount Everest, to the very bottom of the Grand Canyon. Is the jump between 9th and 10th this season. It is. I don't think it's ever been this stark, as close to the 8 as it is right now. The difference between last year, we had a decent clump from about 7th to 13th.
Yeah.
But
the clumps were a big part of our last year.
They were a key part of our first season on this pod. But no, look, I think Richmond will be very disappointed. They've lost their last 3 of the bouts now, but they've played good footy for decent periods of that time. So stick with it. And I think that they're really starting to get the dust off some of these young players to get them into the system. They're going to reap the rewards for this, potentially sooner than most people think. I think they could surge up the ladder as soon as next year.
It's scary. It's actually scary what they're doing this year, given the list. And we were both quite bullish on their drafting and how they went about that.
I think, with the exception of Murphy Reid, they probably nailed their drafting, because they drafted for needs and they drafted best available when they didn't have a specific need. Now, obviously, it helps when you have 11,000 picks. Don't tell St Kilda that. They'll say it's compromised. But they did. I think they've done really well out of that, and they've gotten different prospects to cover different requirements, and that's when you've got a hand like that. That's the way you got to do it.
Yeah, they'll be pretty good and pretty quick, I'd say, the Tigers. Let's move on to the next game. Oh, here we go. This one. This is a great one. We talked about poor kicking before. Holy moly, the kicking in this game was insane from one team especially. 5-11-41 to the Swans, being absolutely destroyed by the Adelaide Crows. 21-5, 131. It's official now, Jesse. It's the best forward line of the competition, surely.
Easily.
21-5.
In terms of the 6 players in that forward line, easily. Other teams may have better individuals, but this is the best forward line in the comp.
It's just, and this is the game I was talking about before, where you create your own luck, you create your own chances. Like Adelaide just were relentless, and they had a lot of these goals, all these 21-5s with like snaps out of contests, like little dribbles, all that kind of stuff. The old soccer assist across from Shelley to Keys, which is being spoken about like it's the best thing in history. It's pretty good.
It was very good.
It was pretty good. Pretty good.
Very good. It was onside too.
That's it. I would have loved it so much if the Swans player who was just there just turned around, just puts his hand up to the ref, going, "Umpy, offside for sure." That was lovely. It was very nice. But Jesse, look, that's we knew the Swans were struggling this year, but that's a bad one, especially at home.
I think we need to have a real conversation about Dean Cox. Maybe not this week, but I think we need to have a conversation about Dean Cox, because he came in as one of the most highly rated assistants in the competition, taking over from John Longmire. Now, whether it's a case of Longmire jumping because you can see the giant bottom 4 iceberg rapidly approaching after another dismal grand final performance, whether or not he saw that coming, we may never know. But this is so... I mean, I've been saying it all year. This is an uninspiring football team. They offer nothing, and they are dispatched with arrogance by any sides with quality. When they've been in games, they've never looked a threat of winning. When they've been gotten a hold of, they've been pummeled. Mm-hmm. They've beaten, of their 4 wins, they've beaten North, so our bottom 4 side. They beat Carlton, who are woefully inconsistent and are a bottom 7 side. They're equal on points and ladder with 4 wins apiece. They've beaten Fremantle in Fremantle's worst run in the season, that first month or so. And they beat the Giants during the Giants' worst run of the season, in that month or so period where they were just terrible. Mm-hmm. They are as bad of a team in this competition as anyone else. I'd honestly, if you offered me West Coast, Sydney at Optus next week, I'd probably tip West Coast.
Yeah.
Because this side is just bland. If it's not, and your name's not there, you got Grundy, Heaney, and McCartan. But if Grundy, Heaney, Gordon, Warner, and Warner's not had a good run since his contract was extended. But there's just nothing below that. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
This is a bad Sydney team, and they are seriously looking at a long period of disappointment unless they can start turning things around, and also potentially looking to shift some deadwood off the list.
It's obviously a big talking point with the Swans, but how much do you reckon these injuries are factoring into this rough year?
Well, injuries doesn't change terrible tactics.
That's true. That's true. But to the point.
I mean, what do you want me to say?
Well, I mean, because obviously it's a big conversation point, right? You're missing Goon, you're missing Amadi, you're missing Papley, you're missing these really key parts of the team. That has to have some sort of effect on it, but it probably doesn't have a 90-point effect.
Well, sure, maybe in a game like this, sure. But look at some of the other games they've lost. I mean, if we go through Sydney, who have now, they've gotten beat by 10 goals by Melbourne, bad side, and got beaten by Essendon, who, But in terms of scoring, 87 against the Giants in a win, 63 against the Bombers in a loss, 78 in a win against Carlton, 78 against Melbourne in a loss, 41 here. You might be missing Amadi, but you need other players to stand up. You don't have 25 spots on your list. You got 45.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And just quickly on the Crows again, just to seal it off, they're pretty good. I think they're going to be up there, challenging for the 1 or 2, I reckon, or at least in the top 4 for sure. Especially if they keep this up, they're formidable. Especially up forward, it's quite scary. Let's move on, Jesse, to Sunday. Oh. All right, we're back. Little minor technical glitch there, but we're back. Hello.
Wouldn't be a public holiday without some stress, would it?
Even the internet's having a day off, Jesse. What can we do about it? Nothing at all. Nothing at all. I maintain Australia has the worst internet in the world. Anyway, we digress.
I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure there's an island somewhere.
Well, listen, you say that, but I have been on the rivers, the banks of the Mekong Delta in a hut, and they had better Wi-Fi than Australia, and that's not even a joke.
Did you catch best on ground while you were there?
Best on ground. I wish.
Everyone should catch best on ground, and by catch, I mean drop it into a nuclear silo and then launch it as far away as you possibly can. Should we talk about the last 2 games of the round?
I don't think that was on anymore, Jessica.
It's been cancelled, but that's not the point. The fact there's probably a back catalogue somewhere, and that makes me deeply upset.
That's fair. No, we will jump into the last 2 games of the round. In Alice Springs, 7-21-63 for the D's, 14-7-91 to the Saints. And we spoke about it earlier about how the kicking efficiency of Adelaide is just second to none. You wouldn't be too happy as a D supporter when you see 7-21 on the scorecard. That's a game losing level of inaccuracy right there, woeful. Jesse. It's not good. It's not good. Your thoughts on this one?
Talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
Did you watch this one?
I did. This was terminally frustrating from a Melbourne point of view. They will be so disappointed to have given this away, especially when they were charging in that third quarter, and all the momentum was going in that direction. Saints started hot, managed to. Sorry, excuse me. That water, a little technical break didn't go down very well. They managed to recover pretty well after Melbourne made that charge at them. But I think they'll be very disappointed. I'm assuming it'll be a relatively small aircraft back from Alice Springs to Melbourne, full of Demons players, because they absolutely cost them. And given the context of how they've been going in recent weeks, building that momentum, getting some wins on the board, potentially looking to silence some doubters, myself included, that they could make finals this year. This is a massive regression against a side that has been horrifically out of form in the last month.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a gut punch, this one, I think, for the D's. It was there for them, but what do you do? Now, I was unable to catch this game in full, Jesse, because I was out having a lovely birthday lunch with my father and family. So I came home and I tried to watch the mini of this, and KO had both minis set to 8 minutes long. So is that an indication of how good this game was?
I do think this was a decent game of footy. I think both games on the Sunday were actually decent contests. But yeah, the two sides on the losing end of both will probably rue missed opportunities and opportunities to get pretty valuable 4 points.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of the other game on Sunday, we have this one. The Eagles 11-7-73 going down to the Cats 17-14, 116, which I think is a bit of an unfair scoreline based on how the game was going. I mean, 7-2 final quarter was basically the difference between these two teams. And that was the fourth quarter. That was it. The other 3 quarters, the Eagles were looking very good. They had some very nice run. They had some very nice pace. They were playing with some confidence. It was nice to see. But I think Geelong kind of remembered who they were at 3/4 time and went, "What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? Come on, let's go do this." I mean, 4 goals to Jezza alone in the last quarter. Disappointing one for the Eagles, but I think at the end of the day, it'd be hard to say that it wasn't the result we were expecting. But a little bit disappointing with the actual final scoreline, Jesse.
Yeah, the wheels fell off late for the Eagles, but they'll be really proud about how they fought. And that was, although pride was the reaction from Eagles supporters who have just wanted the team to be competitive, I think, for the last couple of years. And we saw that here. We saw a team that was willing to have a crack, could match Geelong around the contests. But in the end, the Cats, they're a clear top 4 contender. I know they're just outside it at the moment on percentage. They're a clear top 4 contender. West Coast are probably capped at 16th this year, if that. So for them to be able to stick with it for 3 quarters, they should be really proud of that. The concern, though, I think for me with the Eagles, obviously without Jake Waterman, that was the big question. How would they go in terms of scoring goals? Allen stepped up to the plate, but is Allen sticking around for this rebuild? That's my one kind of question mark around this performance. As well, it was great to see Oscar get back to his best, and I'm sure plenty of West Coast fans will be delighted by that. I don't want to say it's clear that he's leaving, but it's certainly trended in that direction for a pretty decent chunk of this season. So if that retains, that's going to make it difficult, because if you lose Waterman again next season and he's not had a great run with injury, that's going to be a vacuum up forward. So unless they can recruit Darcy Cameron and he can pinch hit up there, but even then, that's not a great solution, I don't think, long term for the Eagles.
Yeah. No, it's I think we're both kind of willing on the bit of the upset on this one, but no, it was not to be. The Geelong Cats are just too good.
You didn't put him in your best for the Cats lane, but I thought Giants Academy graduate Colin O'Sullivan had a really good game for the Cats. Another example of Victorian club directly benefiting from the hard work of the academies, directly drafted by Geelong as a top 10 pick, and looking like another really stoic, reliable, defensively minded player that the Cats have just had an absolute procession of in the last 25 years or so.
A nice little tie-in to our segment at the start of the show. If you're on YouTube and want to watch that, jump over. It'll be there to watch as well. Nice little interesting deep dive into the academy system. I think that's a nice way to end this one up. Jesse, what do you reckon?
I agree. Thank you.
Send us home.
Okay, bye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give it a like if you're on YouTube, or a positive review if you're on one of our preferred podcasting platforms. If it is over on YouTube, drop us a subscribe as well. But the best type of review you can give us across the board is word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell the person you're sitting next to at the WA Day Derby, unless they support those dastardly red and whites, that the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast is the place to listen to. We'll see you next week. Go Sharks. Enjoy another week building up to round 13 of the AFL season.
Bye, everybody.